You lay the evils of slavery at the feet of the king, but you say nothing of slavery itself, sir.
Benjamin Franklin is a name that is embedded in history. He is one of the founding fathers who helped draft the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution while helping negotiate the 1783 Treaty of Paris and ending the Revolutionary War. American students are taught about Benjamin Franklin and his colorful and impressive history and how he became America's first entrepreneur. In today's video, we will cover all of the things you should know about Benjamin Franklin. But before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new videos we post. Early life. Benjamin Franklin was born January 17, 1706 in Boston, United States of America. However, back in the 1700s, Boston was known as Massachusetts Bay Colony. He grew up along the Charles River and was often known by his friends as generally the leader among the boys. Franklin's father, Josiah Franklin, was born an English-born soap and candle maker. Josiah and his first wife, Annie Child, had 7 children together, and then with his second wife, Abiah Folger, he had 10 children. With a total of 17 kids altogether, Franklin was the 15th child and also the youngest son. Franklin excelled greatly in school. He learned to read and write at a very early age, but unfortunately at the age of 10, he dropped out of school to work full-time at his father's candle and soap shop. But this wasn't because Josiah didn't want his son to have an education, it was because they couldn't afford to send him to school. When Franklin turned 12, he became an apprentice for his brother James, who was a printer and taught Franklin the printing trade. At the ripe age of 15, Franklin's brother founded the first independent newspaper in the colonies, the New England Courant. Franklin was denied the opportunity to write, so he adopted the pseudonym of Silence Dogood, so he was able to write for the newspaper anonymously. Mrs. Dogood's letters became a subject of conversation around the town. Only Franklin was aware of this. Neither the newspaper or James knew, and when James found out, he was not impressed. At the age of 17, Franklin ran away to Philadelphia, trying to find a new start in a new place. He worked several printing jobs when he first arrived, but he wasn't very impressed and quickly became bored. After speaking with Governor Sir William Keith, he went to London only to find out the promises made by Keith were empty, so he returned to Philadelphia and went into business as a clerk, shopkeeper, and bookkeeper. At the age of 21, he founded the group Junto, a group of like-minded aspiring artisans and tradesmen who hoped to improve themselves while they improved their community. This ended up forming many organizations around Philadelphia. It was modeled after English coffee houses that Franklin loved and knew was a great and upcoming idea. The group made a library from their own books, and this was not enough, so Franklin created the idea of a subscription library where a pool of funds from the members would buy the books for all to read. This was the birth of the Library Company of Philadelphia. In 1733, Franklin hired his first ever employee, Lewis Timothy. The legendary Library Company is now a research library and a very scholarly one. Franklin achieved many more great achievements, such as becoming an author, and seeing success, he went back to becoming a newspaperman. Inventions and achievements. Electricity. In 1746, Franklin started exploring the idea of electricity. He started this after seeing some of Archibald Spencer's lectures using static electricity for illustrations. Benjamin Franklin then proposed that vitreous and resinous electricity were not different types of electrical fluid, aka electricity, but the same fluid but under different pressures. Franklin was the first person to label them as positive and negative, and was the first person to discover the principle of conservation of charge. He then constructed an electrical battery by placing 11 panes of glass sandwiched between lead plates suspended with silk cord and connected by wires. In 1749, Franklin planned a demonstration where he proposed a dinner party where a turkey would be killed with an electric shock and then roasted on an electric spit. This sounds quite gruesome, but it was the 1700s. Once the dinner party was over, Franklin noted that the turkeys killed in this manner were uncommonly tender. For his work with electricity, he received the Royal Society's Copley Medal, and he became one of the very few 18th century Americans elected as a Fellow of the Society. You can see by this point that Franklin was doing very well for himself, and creating quite the name for him and his work. Franklin then went on to receive honorary degrees from Yale and Harvard universities. Alongside his discovery and innovation of electricity, Franklin also investigated electrotherapy, including the use of an electric bath. This work, though controversial, led to the field becoming widely known around the world. The American Revolution against Great Britain. As America grew as a colony, it became more independent from the mother country, England. By 1776, America had declared their intention to become a sovereign nation. Quickly after the start of the American Revolutionary War between England and America, Franklin was elected a member of the group that consisted of 5 delegates to write a document that declared the independence of the 13 colonies from Great Britain. You may be wondering, who are the other 4 members? Well, the other 4 included the legendary Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Roger Sherman, and Robert R. Livingston. One very intelligent group of people, to say the least. The infamous group was in charge of drafting what has now become known as the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America. However, Franklin had a rough case of gout which prevented him from going to many of the committee gatherings, but he still made very important contributions via text. Thomas Jefferson, the head of the group and prime author of the document, sent the draft through to Franklin to let him make the final edits, showing the trust and knowledge Franklin possessed. Building a new nation. In 1785, Congress decided to place Franklin with Thomas Jefferson as the ambassador to France. This meant that Franklin was about to return home to Philadelphia. Franklin had spent the majority of his adult life living abroad and wasn't used to the American lifestyle. However, once he landed, he put no time to waste, getting himself to work as he was elected president of the Executive Council of Pennsylvania, a position that was on the same level as the governor. At this point, America was a sovereign nation, but it majorly lacked a sufficient government structure and a set of laws in order for society to operate efficiently. Franklin was chosen to be a delegate for Pennsylvania to the Constitutional Convention of 1787. Franklin was 81 years old at this point, and used his powerful influence to urge other delegates to support the document. The document later became the United States Constitution. Sadly, in April of 1790, at the age of 84 years old, Franklin succumbed to a respiratory illness. When he passed, he was surrounded by family and friends and was buried next to his wife. Franklin left behind a rich legacy and paved the way for huge, monumental moments in American history. The legacy of Franklin. It is no secret that Benjamin Franklin left behind a legendary legacy and is now known to American school children as one of the key figures in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America. Others remember him for his experiments and revolutionary findings with electricity. Although he is a great in many historians' eyes, he has still been criticized by many over his rise to wealth with the Protestant ethic and money-making business values of the American middle class. However, this theory came about in the 1900s. In the 1800s, he was celebrated as an inventor, scientist, and innovator who emerged from the obscurity of his modest upbringing and lack of education. Franklin saw his achievements and inventions as public service before science. His contribution to the formation of the United States was the pinnacle of his achievements. He had a very caring, kind nature with very good morals and values. Franklin pioneered ideas that have since helped develop American civic society and establish public service institutions, including the likes of a hospital, a fire company, an academy, and an insurance company. Due to his great inventions and achievements, while also serving as the first Postmaster General of the United States of America, Franklin is the second most featured historical figure in American postage stamps, following closely behind George Washington. Franklin was also given an 18-foot-tall marble statue known as Benjamin Franklin National Monument, which was made during the 1976 bicentennial. His famous image is also adorned on the $100 bill, commonly referred to as Benjamin's. His photo has been on the $100 bill since 1928 and doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. Slavery. As many achievements and inventions as Franklin created, he also owned as many as 7 slaves. A very condemned idea in this modern day that goes against all human rights laws. Franklin posted paid ads for the sale of slavers, capture of runaway slaves, and allowed the sale of slaves in his general store. He benefited greatly from the international and domestic slave trade and was deeply invested in the business. However, he later became well known for attacking American slavery and the entire concept. Quite hypocritical, and it is hard to tell if this was genuine or to win more votes from the public. Although he fought to abolish slavery, he never really took a definite side, always tending to both sides, ultimately proving the point that he didn't really care. Undoubtedly, Benjamin Franklin is one of the most important Americans from the 18th century. Although he helped revolutionize America, it doesn't mean he wasn't the nicest person. He partook in questionable activities and lifestyle habits, many that are very illegal today. And there you have it, things you may or may not have known about Benjamin Franklin. We hope you enjoyed today's video, and don't forget to like and subscribe to see more of our new content.